Random weapons, a term that usually equates to absolute chaos. Yep, today we're doing none other than our own version of the Mad Terraria Random Weapon Challenge, which if you haven't seen Gungnirs' amazing series or from a good 3 years ago now, can and will generate the most emotional whiplash you've ever seen in a Terraria playthrough. Real quick though, here's our proper rules. First, no rerolls. What we get is what we've got. Second, to counter that, no progression limit, meaning all 402 weapons will be available every roll. And finally, only bosses of the same tier can be defeated, meaning no Queen Bee kill to get a good weapon for the Moonlord. Right, with that out the way, let's dive straight into the madness. Oh my god, yeah, we're actually getting actually close to 200k now. Ooh. Starting off, we of course get our first random weapon of the run, which amazingly was in fact the Shadow Flame Hex doll.
That's good, but also quite bad.
Which, although seems broken on paper, did need a bit of work, as that 1 mana star was being eaten up in a manner of seconds. I'm so sorry. So with us quickly getting some basics sorted, and us finding a living tree next to spawn for some early loot, it was time to test it out. And yeah, I mean it's pretty good, which is why I wanted to make the most of it, because our next weapon could literally be anything. And with this delightful desert pyramid find sorting out our early game mobility just like that, things were off to a pretty nice start. However, maybe the power of having a hardboard weapon was getting to my head a little, as we were basically just the glassiest of glass cannons at this point, with minimal damage sustained.
No, dude! Oh, right at the chest as well.
So before we even considered our first boss defeat, I guess we needed to get a lot tankier and increase our mana. Which I seriously don't know why I went to the dungeon for, because, well, the expected happened.
Ah! Oh!
Either way, after a bit of time, with just some surface chest accessories and a couple life crystals consumed, everything suddenly started to fall into place. And then I realized, with such a solid piercing weapon, there was only really one boss that made sense for us to defeat.
No, man.
The Eater of Worlds. So I wasted absolutely no time prepping for the fight. And you know, this was really a luxury, as with a base damage of 32, I had no doubt in my mind that this would be an easy scrap. And so with a minimal arena constructed, we gave it a crack.
Come on, we can do this, right?
And dude, this was the perfect call, as even with the sliver of mana we had, the worm segments gave me enough back to pretty much fire continuously. And in a matter of seconds, our first boss was down. Okay, great start. And even if we get something garbage next, we already had shadow armor and the worm scarf. So what would it be?
Oh!
The celebration was honestly a weapon I forgot was even a weapon, so it's actually really nice to use it unironically in a playthrough. And of course with it having a massive damage output, well, for pre-hard mode, it was most logical to go ham on the Eye of Cthulhu and get us enough Demonite to finish our armor. So after a bit of work constructing a nice old arena and some more council housing, with no messing about, it was time to get our second tree boss kill, which, right, yeah, was also over very swiftly. As you'd probably expect with this challenge though, we were being spoiled at this point, as oh boy, it can only get worse from here.
Oh, God.
Shurikens. Not the worst, but seriously not the best either, which is why I was so chuffed to have left the King Slime to kill at this point, as I was not going to defeat the Wall of Flesh with these things. So with no hesitation, we headed underground to farm a few more upgrades, mine a bit more ore, and get us the rubies required to craft the Slime Crown. Which, yeah, I did forget we needed a demon altar for. Anyway, back at base, let's give this slimy boy our first attempt. God, you know, this was somehow a lot worse than I expected. I thought shurikens were actually half decent, but apparently not. The only thing is though, I guess I can't be too mad though, as even with a copper short sword, this would have been relatively easy. All it took was a lot of time. Regardless though, it was still another boss kill to add under our belt, which meant it was time for another random weapon to be gifted.
Oh.
Wow, the water bolt was not only coincidentally an extremely period accurate weapon for this progression point, but also 100% our Skeletron boss kill. So with no delay, we headed straight over there. And this got me thinking, with the progression changes made to this weapon in 1.4, it'll be interesting to see how it performs in modern Terraria. But before we do, I have to admit, even back in the day I never really used this thing, and I especially didn't fight Skeletron with it. So I don't know if this is what you're supposed to do.
This is the exact reason why you don't build a bridge from both ends at the same time.
I guess I'll get an answer pretty soon though, because with some final preparations made, like a bunch more mana, it was time to give what I thought would be a chill fight
Oh my god, mine it.
our first attempt. And keyword first there, because oh my god, this sucked for some reason. Genuinely, what the hell am I doing wrong here? Because in all honesty, this was one of my longest drawn out Skeletron fights of all time, which was utterly amplified by my minimal amount of mana capacity. So as expected, this did result in a pitiful death.
What the flip?
But I guess there is one good thing we can take from this. Knowledge, which would be the key to us improving the fight next time. And so, without mucking about, I attempted to fix our mana situation by actually crafting a load of mana potions. Unfortunately, these will have to be consumed manually though, as the goblin army was nowhere to be found. Anyway, let's just give it another go. This time, although still extremely slow and painful, it did feel a lot more possible, and just required me to keep on the move and continuously consume many mana potions. Saying that, however, this was somehow still a close one, which I really didn't see coming. At the end of the day though, Skeletron was down.
Oh, thank god for that.
And we finally got to move on to a different weapon.
Oh.
Ah, nice, the Titanium Repeater. From what I can tell, this was just an all-around nice weapon to have, and if possible, would be nearly perfect for our Wall of Flesh kill. Before that though, let's prepare for the next time we inevitably get a thirsty mage weapon, because I was not going through that pain again. So with a nature's gift in hand from our jungle, and a quick scout around our space biome for any remaining floating islands, I guess it was time to dig our elevator now, as the goblins were still seriously unkeen to invade. Once we arrived in the underworld, it was time for the usual festivities, including bombing the living hell out the landscape for more room, and mining a bunch of that lovely hot stone for our final armor tool upgrades. And while doing this, I suddenly realized something potentially useful that we'd completely disregarded. So before the big fight, let's head over there and grab some final goodies.
I've just thought, isn't Declops like imminent?
Wait a minute. Yep, of course greed got the better of me.
Oh!
As I guess we're giving Declops a crack after all, which could either result in an improved Wall of Flesh kill, or just a tragedy. Either way, I went ahead with the battle. And you know what? Due to our still terrible mobility, this wasn't the easiest of fights in the world, even with a damn Titanium Repeater. But luckily, with our now super tanky defense, Declops was defeated, which now meant only one thing. It's time for our completely unnecessary reroll.
Oh!
Ha! The Brand of the Inferno. A real strange one there, as although Karma hadn't come to get us yet, giving us a copper short sword, it was still a true melee weapon, which, let's be honest, was not an improvement to our repeater. But I guess it could have been much worse. And so with us finally getting those final 4 upgrades from the dungeon, like a cobalt shield, it was time to head back to the underworld and give the wall a go with possibly the most random weapon I'd ever used. Right then, let's see what we can do. Starting off, things were looking easy peasy, as let's not forget that the Inferno is in fact a hard mode weapon with 95 base damage. However, as expected, its true melee shortcomings quickly became apparent,
We're getting battered, dude.
with it being almost impossible to hit the wall without taking damage myself. This combined without an optimized flat platform to run on made it messy pretty quick, and just like that, actually resulted in a death, with the Wall of Flesh still having a good 3k hit points remaining too. Not really what I was expecting, but of course very far from impossible. All it meant is that we'd have to put a few more measures in place than I originally expected, including an actual flat platform to fight him on, and some subtle but welcome mobility upgrades like this Magiluminescence. Okay, I guess it was time for take 2. And you know, even with the extra mobility and platforms, it still wasn't that easy, as it was basically an endurance race of who would die first, because I was starting to take some serious hits. Nevertheless though, in the end we did emerge victorious. Well, just.
Yes!
Which was a huge moment for this playthrough, as the harsh difficulty jump would mean a much higher chance of bad weapons going forward. Which, speaking of, we're due a new one right now.
Oh!
Huh, not bad at all. The Sealer was not only a post-Pantera sword, but a good one at that, and should be able to make our next boss fight a breeze. Before all that though, we had some early hard mode errands to run, like getting the melee emblem, a basic set of wings,
Or the dodge.
which is always fun, and of course smashing our altars for the hard mode ores. Now, as per when it comes to this stage of the game, I'm not going to keep you guys waiting, as there really isn't much to see here, other than the process of mining, heading back home, and repeating, which after only about 30 minutes or so, thanks to the Sealer carrying us, got us our titanium armor upgrades. Oh, also, while down there, I did actually bump into a gelatin crystal, which could maybe be a strategic weapon reroll for us, because although the Sealer was doing us greatly, I was sure we could get something even better to cheese the destroyer with. Before that though, the fact we still didn't have a goblin tinker was absolutely insane. So after finally giving up on waiting, we went to our beach and collected some tattered cloth to manually get the invasion up and running. And just like that, in a matter of minutes, our long overdue gateway to poverty was now open. All we needed now was the man himself, who surprisingly didn't exactly take long to find.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, back to the plan. And foolishly, I'd apparently not learned anything from earlier's Deerclops fight, because I was going to greed out again and give Queen Slime a go for a potentially even better weapon for the destroyer. And so with a proper arena built and an eternity past waiting for the stupid howler to spread, because I kind of forgot you can only fight it there, it was time for our first hard mode boss fight of the random weapon challenge. Which, as kind of expected, was simply blissful, with even our pretty much base Sealer making an absolute mockery out of her, which I guess thinking about it now could start to be seen as a bad thing, as it seriously wasn't long until we'd be giving this thing up. Oh, never mind, I think it's time already, because the Queen Slime was down. So the question is, did we make the right choice?
Oh, no.
Nope! Yeah, not good. I guess though, looking at it from a half-glass full perspective, if I remember correctly, the Aquaceptor is pretty good when it comes to piercing, so the Destroyer was locked in. Now, just while we set ourselves up in the background, these next 3 fights were debatably the most crucial in the entire playthrough, as they're the most difficult time-restricted foes we'll face. So guys, if I can't defeat them in time, I guess we lose. That's a problem for later though, because with a base damage of 27 and 5 piercing at our disposal, I was positive we could deplete the Destroyer's health pool in time. And so without further ado, let's give it a go, shall we? And dude, despite me building our fight platform far too low to the ground, our damage output was unironically unreal. Like, come on, this is a dungeon weapon. My only real worry at this time was actually being able to live long enough to get the kill, because in all honesty, I'm so used to cheesing this boss in sub 30 seconds, I'm actually terrible at a sustained fight. And let me tell you, those probes were not helping, as our single target damage was definitely our weakness. And so with an unfortunate,
Nah.
but fine, death out the way, I was still feeling extremely optimistic, as the Scepter's damage output was still more than enough to get the kill before dawn. So after rebuilding the arena actually at the right height this time, we reattempted the next night. And wow, what a difference that little change makes, with now just the probes being the only real threat. Wanna know the craziest part though? Judging by the moon position, we were on course for victory before it was even midnight. And there you have it, folks.
Oh, yes.
The Destroyer was down using nothing but the wondrous pre-hard mode Aquaceptor. I swear people are sleeping on this thing now. Right, let's not get too carried away though, as we had 2 more time fights to go, whose selection will be determined by our next random weapon.
Oh.
The leaf blower? Really? I mean, I'm not complaining because it is post-Pantera, but it's not exactly OP, is it? Which meant we'd still have a fight on our hands. Also, because we didn't need to change any accessories around, I was eager to cram in another boss before morning. So here we go. The twins were up. And oh, for those of you who have been telling me to review the leaf blower because it's amazing, and there has literally been tens of you, I really don't get the appeal. Because even against this way underspec'd boss, I found its projectiles slow, its damage average, and the mana consumption way too high. Like, genuinely, if you told me this was a pre-mech weapon, I wouldn't bat an eye. But that's enough roasting of this thing for now, because we still had a fight in our hands, which actually resulted in another death. I'm gonna blame that one on pure skill issue though, because the next night, after getting a substantial reforge upgrade, it was smooth sailing, with the leaf blower maybe starting to grow on me a bit once learning its attack style. And with still bags of time remaining, the twins were down.
Yes.
Now then, we're so close but so far from some respite, because we still had one more random weapon and time boss to go. Let's see what it's gonna be. Nice! At the very least, the challenge continues. And you know, out of all the weapons we've had recently, this was the nicest to see yet, as that whopping base damage of 180 should allow us to defeat anything. So once again, let's dive straight into the next one, with Skeletron Prime quickly getting a run for his money. Yeah, he did not stand a chance against this thing, as we had great range, great damage, and the ability to hit multiple segments at once. What more could you want? And there we go.
Jungle time.
The most terrifying part of this challenge was overcome, but not necessarily the easiest, as bosses were only going to get more and more powerful from here, as our weapons became less and less likely to be good. So what would we be defeating Plantera with? Let's go. We finally looked out completely and got ourselves a Meowmare. This of course meant a few things for us. A, we were getting a free Plantera kill. B, anything else at this progression point would be a breeze. And C, we had probably used up all our luck for the rest of the playthrough, meaning I was not looking forward to what was next. Who cares right now though? Let's just enjoy the luxury of not having to worry about anything for a bit, with us now making a bunch of nice character upgrades while we can, and getting to work in our jungle arena, just in case we need one for later, as I highly suspect Plantera is not going to be a threat.
Wait, why is there a goblin army happening down here?
And so, with some final prep made, including our chlorophyte armor, it was time to erase Plantera in a matter of seconds. And you know what? She actually lasted longer than expected, so good for her. Let's not stay too whimsical though, because surely we weren't going to go from Meowmare to another god weapon, right? The odds were surely against us now. No. Let me just have a minute. I need a minute.
Joking, dude.
Ah yes, the Platinum Bow, the finest in early free-harbored ranged weaponry. So it's a shame we're post-Plantera then, innit? Because this was gonna be agony, which already started after realizing I had another bleeding goblin army to clear before anything else. I guess on the plus side though, this did give us a good testing ground for arrows, which in summary, were all terrible. Like, we're just doomed here, guys. But I guess for the sake of some tick damage, I don't know, Curse was my final choice. So what was actually going to be the plan here? Because thankfully while we didn't have a time limit for Golem, I as a human did, and did not want to die of old age before defeating this boss. So with us first attempting to get the absolute most percentage damage increase as physically possible at this point, it was first time for me to do something incredibly dumb, time consuming, and eventually utterly pointless. Oh, and yeah, do excuse me losing my mind a bit over here.
Where are they coming from?
Because for reasons I cannot even begin to fathom, I thought that actuating out the Golem Arena was totally still a thing, which after a slow, painful crawl through the Lizard Temple, I realized the hard way was not a thing in Terraria 1.4.4, meaning I had just wasted about 2 hours of building and gathering for nothing. Good start. Real good start, that. So I guess we're stuck with this then. Our small dingy arena, in which we'd have to use a 13 damage weapon to take down a 90,000 health boss with. Joy. I guess it was bound to happen though, so without further ado, let's just get on with it. Normally, these rare moments happen once in a Terraria player's lifetime, with them never having to repeat such atrocities ever again. But this is sockrteez, so of course, after 15 minutes of boring agony, I just died.
There is actually no way.
To Golem, when it had under 4,000 health left. Wow, quite bad, yeah. So imagine like doing that all over again and having the exact same thing happen. Oh my god, it did!
It's happened twice!
But luckily, third time is always the charm, and after 40 minutes of fighting this thing with a platinum bow, he finally fell to his death. Now, Terraria gods, if you're real, please never do that to me ever again, because it was time for our cultist and potentially pillar weapon. You know, after what we've just been through, I'll take it, because the life drain is genuinely one of my favourite Terraria weapons. Well, at least for when you're supposed to obtain it. And with us already pretty set up for mage, let's just see how it holds up against the wizardy guy himself. You know what, guys, it's not very good. Which, after just having to use the platinum bow for God knows how many hours, really surprised me. To be fair to the life drain though, this type of boss is so not its bag, and would really benefit from something with a load more segments. Either way though, I guess it would have to do. Well, not before breaking my desk, because shock horror, we died. So after a quick reattempt the next day, we were finally in business, and found ourselves encountering a seriously important milestone for this playthrough, what our first Moonlord weapon would be. Drumroll, please. Oh, the Waffles Iron. How fitting, but practically not exactly what I was looking for. Luckily though, there is a reason I emphasized first Moonlord weapon, which is because we had a few more optional bosses to use as rerolls, which should, in theory, be more than doable with this early hard mode waffle-flinging weapon. And if you hadn't guessed yet, the Duke was our first target, and it actually made me realize just how much of a good idea rerolling this thing was, because, sorry waffle time, it's actually quite bad, mate. I shouldn't be complaining too much though, I guess, because it did, just about, perform well enough to give us another weapon opportunity for the Moonlord. And just what would that be? Oh, I did not see that thing coming. But you know what? Let's give it a go. Because from the 1 or 2 times I've used the Grey Zappinator, this thing absolutely wrecks, and from a technical level, will have the potential to kill any boss this game throws at it, thanks to its weird, complicated, random projectile stuff. Before we get to see how it fares against the Lord himself though, we had 4 dreary pillars to get through first, which, like everything recently, wasn't exactly a cakewalk, as although the Zappinator was nice, on average was still a way under-spec'd weapon, and really didn't deliver the fire rate or knockback we needed for those tier enemies. But I mean, come on. That could have genuinely been a lead short sword or something, so I should really be counting my blessings here. And speaking of blessings, one major perk of landing on a mage weapon meant I was open to the ever so useful Spectre armor set bonus, which might just deal that extra bit of damage we may need, because we were approaching the moment this entire playthrough had been building up to, the Moonlord fight. And so with some final super potions crafted and our orange Zappinator raring to go, it was time for the moment of truth. And you know what? That damage is not actually that bad, but let's not get too excited yet, as maybe we're just hitting the god tier RNG on those projectiles. I guess either way though, I was just going to give it my best shot, dodge what I could with our shrimpy truffle, and hope we could defeat him before he defeats us.
Very, very nice. This is actually going so damn smoothly.
Yeah, you heard me. The fight was actually going well, which really caught me off guard after its subpar pillar performance. But I guess we still had a way to go, because it was time to move on to the heart, which did cut us a little close to be honest, but after taking some deep breaths, getting our bearings and keeping loads of distance from the boss, it was actually an incredibly chill and easy fight, which by the looks of things, would actually be won any minute.
Oh, I think we've done it, man. Jesus, what? I did not expect that at all. GG.
And there we have it, guys. I for one had no clue the Zappinator could be this good against the Moonlord, but thank God almighty it was, because after that Golem fight, we deserved it. So let me know down below what kind of series you'd like to see next, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's adventure. This has been sockrteez, and I'll see you in the next one.